Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, today I want to talk about something real, something raw, something that can change the trajectory of your entire life. I want to talk about the 100 laws of life. So you don't screw your life up the way I did, because let's face it, experience is a brutal teacher. But if you learn the lesson, it becomes your greatest weapon. I'm not here as a perfect person. I'm here as living proof that failure doesn't have to be final, that pain can be fuel, that rock bottom will teach you things mountaintops never will. So listen close, not because I'm some guru, but because I've made the mistakes so you don't have to. As they say, a wise man learns from his mistakes, but a genius learns from someone else's. Let's become geniuses today. Let's break the cycle. Let's rewrite the rules. Because your future doesn't have to look like your past unless you choose to live there. Let's go. Own your choices, or your choices will own you. It's one of those truths that sounds simple until life makes you feel the weight of it. Most people drift through life reacting to situations, to people, to emotions, to whatever the world throws at them. But what they don't realize is that every reaction is still a choice. And the minute you give up responsibility for your choices, you also give up your power. That's when life starts owning you instead of you owning your life. The hardest pill to swallow is that your life right now, the relationships, the habits, the finances, the health, is the sum total of the choices you've made or allowed to be made for you. That's a tough truth, especially when you've made some terrible decisions or you've let others decide for you. But here's the thing, denial doesn't set you free, ownership does. We all make choices every day. Even not choosing is a choice. And every choice has a consequence. If you eat junk food every day, your body pays for it. If you procrastinate, your future pays for it. If you avoid hard conversations, your relationships pay for it. If you live without purpose, your soul pays for it. The problem is, we often make decisions based on comfort, not consequences. We pick easy over right, now over later, numb over face, it. And those decisions, repeated over time, become the cage we build around ourselves. You can't escape that reality. You either take control of your choices, or you end up a passenger in a life you didn't really want. And then you wake up one day full of regret, wondering how it all went so far off course. But if you trace it back, it's not a mystery. It's a million small decisions you refuse to take ownership of. When I look back on the worst seasons of my life, I can see how often I gave away my power by refusing to own my role. I blamed others. I played victim. I told myself stories to justify my behavior. I let my fear make decisions for me. I let emotions drive the car while logic was locked in the trunk. I waited for someone to rescue me instead of rescuing myself. And every time I did that, I became more disconnected from the person I wanted to be. The shift came when I realized that owning my choices didn't mean blaming myself for everything. It meant reclaiming my agency. It meant realizing I could choose differently, and that was where my freedom started. Once I stopped waiting for life to hand me a better deal and started creating one, everything changed. Owning your choices is not about perfection. It's about intention. It's about being awake to the fact that everything you say yes to, you are also saying no to something else. That how you spend your time is how you spend your life. That your daily routine, the small actions you repeat without thinking, is what creates your destiny. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, and those systems are built one choice at a time. You can say you want success, but if you choose laziness, distraction, and excuses every day, that's what you've truly committed to. You can say you want love, but if you choose jealousy, bitterness, and selfishness, that's what your relationships will reflect. Your life bends toward the direction of your repeated choices, not your wishes. And yes, it's uncomfortable to admit that some of the pain in your life is self-inflicted. It's easier to say, this isn't my fault, and maybe some of it isn't. But the question is, what are you going to do about it now? The past is fixed, but your next decision isn't. You don't have to continue the pattern just because you've followed it this long. People who thrive in life aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who take ownership when they do. They learn, they adjust, they don't hide behind blame or circumstance. They take responsibility even when it's uncomfortable, because they know that's the only path to real growth. They don't hand their life's steering wheel to fear, anger, laziness, or other people's expectations. They own their path even when it's hard. If you want to change your life, you have to change your choices. And to do that, you first have to admit you've been making the wrong ones. That's where most people stop, at the point of self-honesty. Because owning your choices means confronting your patterns, your excuses, your toxic comfort zones. It means saying, I did this, not in shame, but in power. It means stepping out of the story that you're helpless and stepping into the truth that you're responsible. Not for what happened to you maybe, but for how you respond and what you build next. Discipline beats motivation every time. Most people wait for motivation to strike before they take action. They wait until they feel like it to go to the gym, start that business, clean their life up, or make that tough decision. But motivation is like a spark. It's quick, exciting, and inspiring, but it burns out just as fast. Discipline, on the other hand, is the steady flame that keeps burning, even when there's no spark in sight. If you rely on motivation to get things done, you'll be inconsistent at best and completely stagnant at worst. Because motivation comes and goes, it's tied to your emotions, your energy, your circumstances, and 100 other variables that you can't always control. But discipline, that's a choice. That's a system. That's a habit. And once you build it, It doesn't care whether you're tired, uninspired, or feeling off. It just shows up and does the work. That's what separates winners from dreamers. Everyone wants success, health, purpose, freedom, but only the disciplined are willing to do what's required day in and day out, regardless of how they feel. Because feelings are fickle. They lie. They'll tell you it's okay to skip one more workout, to push the deadline again, to indulge just this once, to stay in your comfort zone. Discipline doesn't listen to feelings. It listens to commitment. The truth is, anything worth having requires effort long after the excitement has worn off. Starting is easy. Finishing is rare. Everyone is fired up on day 1. But by day 30, when the results are slow and the resistance kicks in, only the disciplined are still in the game. That's where the magic happens. Not in the moments of hype, but in the quiet hours when no one is watching and you choose to show up anyway. I used to think motivation would save me. I'd watch inspirational videos, read books, make big plans, and then I'd fall flat a week later, over and over. It wasn't because I didn't want change. It's because I didn't have the structure to sustain it. Discipline is that structure. It's what takes your dreams and anchors them in reality. It turns intentions into action, and action into identity. Discipline is doing the thing you said you'd do. Especially when you don't feel like it. It's keeping your word to yourself. And that matters more than people realize, because every time you break a promise to yourself, you chip away at your self-trust. You start believing you're not someone who follows through. And that belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But when you practice discipline, even in the smallest things, you begin to rewrite that identity. You become someone who follows through, someone who shows up, someone who does hard things. And the beautiful part, discipline grows. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. You start by waking up early even when you're tired. Then you tackle your tasks even when you're unmotivated. You eat clean even when junk food is easier. You stay consistent even when progress is invisible. And before long, it's no longer a struggle. It's just who you are. This doesn't mean you become a robot. It means you stop letting temporary emotions dictate your long-term outcomes. It means you become the kind of person who takes responsibility for the results you want. Motivation might get you going, but only discipline keeps you growing. Anyone can work hard when they feel good, but real strength is shown when you keep working when you feel nothing at all. Look at any successful person in any field, athlete, artist, entrepreneur, leader, and behind every one of them is discipline. Early mornings, late nights, repetition, sacrifice, and structure. That's what it takes. Not hacks, not hype, not perfect circumstances. Just consistent, disciplined action over time. Motivation asks, do I feel like doing this? Discipline says, it doesn't matter. I do it anyway. Motivation is external, a good speech, a quote, a rush of adrenaline. Discipline is internal, a decision, a standard, a code you live by. And that's why it wins. Because it's not about mood, it's about mindset. You don't need to be the most talented, the smartest, or the most inspired. You just need to be the most consistent. You need to build habits that outlast your feelings. You need to set systems in place that remove the need for daily decision making. When it's a non-negotiable, it becomes automatic. When it's automatic, it becomes powerful. That's the real freedom. Not doing whatever you want, whenever you want, but doing what needs to be done, whether you want to or not. Because freedom without discipline leads to chaos. But discipline creates the structure for true success, happiness, and peace. Stop blaming, start building. Blame is easy. It's one of the easiest things in the world to do. When life goes wrong, when plans fall apart, when dreams don't pan out, the human instinct is to look outward. We look for someone to point the finger at. Our parents, our partner, our boss, the system, the timing, the economy, our past. Blame becomes our shield. It protects us from the hard truth that maybe, just maybe, part of the problem is us. But here's the catch. Blame might feel good in the moment, but it leaves you powerless. It gives control of your life to something or someone else. The more you blame, the less responsibility you take. And the less responsibility you take, the less you build. You can't create a better future while you're still angry at the past. You can't climb if your hands are busy pointing. Everyone has a story. Everyone has pain. Everyone has scars. Some people grew up in broken homes. Some were betrayed, abandoned, mistreated, misunderstood. Some have faced things no one should ever have to face. But at some point, the question changes from, why did this happen to me? To, what am I going to do about it now? That's the moment where life begins to shift. Because blame keeps you stuck, but building moves you forward. There are two kinds of people, builders and blamers. Blamers stay in the same cycles for years. They replay the same old stories, hold the same grudges, carry the same excuses. They always have a reason why they're not where they want to be. And it's never them. Builders are different. They may have the same pain, the same obstacles, the same trauma, but they use it. They take their broken pieces and make something out of them. They learn, adapt, grow, and move. Blaming gives you a false sense of righteousness. It makes you feel like you're right and the world is wrong. But being right doesn't get you results. You can be right and still be broke. You can be right and still be unhappy. You can be right and still be stuck. Building, on the other hand, gets you results. When you start building, you take action. You stop waiting for someone else to change. You stop expecting the apology that may never come. You stop needing the world to be fair before you make progress. Progress doesn't care who was at fault. It only responds to effort. If your foundation is weak, it's your job to strengthen it. If your habits are toxic, it's your job to change them. If your environment is dragging you down, it's your job to rise above it or get out. You don't need permission to build. You just need to stop waiting and start doing. The truth is, blaming is addictive. It allows you to avoid responsibility. It gives you an excuse to stay small. But the longer you feed that addiction, the harder it becomes to see what you're actually capable of. When you blame others, you blind yourself to your own power. You forget that no matter how bad the past was, the future is still yours to shape. Building isn't glamorous. It's not flashy or loud. It's small, consistent actions. It's learning new skills. It's managing your emotions. It's breaking toxic cycles. It's showing up even when you feel broken. It's rewriting your mindset. It's doing the work no one sees so you can live a life most people don't have. It's uncomfortable and sometimes it's lonely, but it's the only way out. It's easy to say, if they hadn't hurt me, I'd be further along. But maybe it's, I let that hurt stop me for too long. It's easy to say, I didn't get the right opportunities. But maybe it's, I didn't create the right habits. Taking ownership doesn't mean pretending everything was your fault. It just means you stop using what happened as a reason to stop moving. Life doesn't hand you peace, success, or confidence. You build those things brick by brick. You show up for yourself. You learn from your mistakes. You stop outsourcing your identity to what people did to you or said about you. You start investing in who you want to become instead of staying angry about who you used to be. Some people will live their whole lives blaming, and they'll have a story for every failure. But the builders, they'll have results. They'll have scars too, but they'll also have growth. They'll have something real to show for all the pain. Because they didn't waste time pointing fingers. They used that time to build something better. Who you surround yourself with is who you become. It might sound like a cliché, but it's one of the most brutally accurate truths in life. The people you keep close, the ones you talk to daily, seek advice from, share your time and energy with, they are shaping your mindset, your habits, your goals, and even your limits. Whether you like it or not, you're absorbing their beliefs, their language, their fears, their drive, and their values. That influence is not optional. It's automatic. Look around at your circle. Are they building or are they breaking? Are they challenging you or enabling your comfort zone? Are they pushing you to grow or pulling you to stay small? Because every person in your life is either a weight or a wing. They're either dragging you down or helping you rise. There is no neutral. You could be the most ambitious, talented, driven person in the world. But if your inner circle is full of negativity, laziness, fear, drama, or complacency, their energy will bleed into yours. It's like trying to run with a backpack full of bricks. Eventually, it wears you down. You start to lower your standards. You start to think average is normal. You stop aiming higher because no one around you is aiming higher either. People don't just influence your mood. They influence your identity. You subconsciously adjust your behavior to match your environment. If you're around 5 people who work hard, think big, and take action, you will naturally elevate. But if you're around 5 people who complain, procrastinate, and settle, that becomes your baseline. You start becoming who they are, not because you choose to, but because consistency shapes identity. It's not about judging others or acting like you're better than them. It's about protecting your potential. It's about recognizing that your future is too important to hand over to people who don't care about theirs. You don't owe anyone your energy just because of history. Just because someone has been in your life for years doesn't mean they deserve a front row seat to your future. Loyalty is beautiful, but blind loyalty is dangerous. Sometimes the biggest leap in your life won't come from learning something new. It'll come from letting go of who no longer serves your growth. That's hard. Letting go of people feels like a loss. But keeping the wrong people can cost you more than any goodbye ever will. Growth will cost you comfort. And one of the most uncomfortable things you'll ever do is outgrow your circle. But here's the flip side. When you start surrounding yourself with people who are on fire for their goals, people who live with intention, who think bigger, move with purpose, and hold themselves to higher standards, something shifts in you. Their discipline rubs off on you. Their mindset becomes contagious. Their energy fuels your own. You find yourself thinking differently, speaking differently, showing up differently. That's the power of proximity. You don't need people who will agree with every excuse you make. You need people who will challenge your excuses. People who will hold you accountable when you slack off. People who see the greatness in you even when you can't see it in yourself. You need friends who aren't threatened by your growth, who don't feel insecure when you win, who want to see you do better, not just stay the same. Evaluate your circle not just by how they treat you, but by how they impact you. After spending time with them, do you feel more focused or more distracted, more energized or more drained, more driven or more discouraged? Those answers matter because your circle is either helping you build your dream or slowly convincing you to give up on it. This doesn't mean you cut everyone off and live on an island. It means you become intentional. You spend less time with those who pull you backward and more time with those who pull you forward. You limit access to your mind and spirit. You raise the standard of who gets to influence your decisions and beliefs. And it's not just about what they do. It's about what they expect from you. When you're around people who expect you to be excellent, to be disciplined, to be growing, you rise to meet that standard. When people expect you to stay the same, you shrink to meet their comfort. High standards are a form of love. Surround yourself with people who expect more from you, not because they're critical, but because they believe in what you're capable of. Your environment will always outpower your willpower in the long run. You can try to outwork a toxic circle, but eventually it will slow you down. That's why your circle is one of the most strategic choices you'll ever make. It's not just friendship, it's alignment. It's either your anchor or your engine. Comfort is the enemy of growth. It sounds harsh, but it's one of the rawest truths most people ignore. We're wired to seek comfort. It's human nature. Warmth, safety, routine, predictability. These things feel good. They give us a sense of control and peace. But here's the paradox. The same comfort that makes life feel safe is the same comfort that slowly kills your potential. The growth you want, the strength you need, the life you dream about, none of that lives in your comfort zone. Comfort convinces you that good enough is good enough. It whispers that you should avoid risk, play it safe, stay where it's familiar. It tells you not to speak up, not to try something new, not to fail, not to get hurt. Comfort wants you to survive, not thrive. And survival might keep you alive, but it won't make you feel alive. Growth demands discomfort. It requires stretch, struggle, and sometimes even pain. It lives in the hard conversations, the scary decisions, the unfamiliar habits, and the places where you feel most uncertain. Every major transformation in your life will be preceded by moments of discomfort. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something different. We avoid discomfort like it's dangerous. But it's not. It's necessary. It's the signal that you're stepping into new territory. The burn in your muscles when you work out, that's growth. The fear in your stomach before taking a risk, that's growth. The awkwardness of learning something new, that's growth. Discomfort is the price of admission for a better version of yourself. The problem is, we've been conditioned to equate comfort with happiness. We think comfort equals peace, but it often equals stagnation. The couch feels good until it becomes your whole lifestyle. The familiar job feels secure until 10 years go by and you're miserable. The easy relationship feels stable until you realize neither of you is evolving. Comfort traps you by slowly convincing you to settle. Every goal worth chasing requires you to walk through the fire of discomfort. You want confidence. You'll have to face fear. You want strength. You'll have to endure resistance. You want growth. You'll have to break through limits. You can't think your way into a better life. You have to act your way into it. And action, more often than not, feels uncomfortable at first. There's no version of leveling up that feels cozy. Ask any successful person. They didn't get there by staying comfortable. They got there by doing what others were unwilling to do. They took risks. They looked foolish. They failed, adjusted, and kept going. They made sacrifices, endured judgment, handled pressure, and embraced the unknown. That's the path. If you want something different, you have to become someone different. And becoming someone different means leaving behind parts of yourself that are comfortable but not useful. Old habits, limiting beliefs, dead routines, they all feel familiar, but they're anchors. Growth comes from shedding those layers, and that process isn't smooth. It's uncomfortable, messy, and sometimes painful. Most people live their entire lives protecting their comfort, never realizing it's the very thing holding them back. They wait for the perfect time, the right feeling, the ideal circumstance, but none of those are coming. The truth is, you won't feel ready. You won't feel fearless. You won't feel certain. You just have to move anyway. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing it scared. Discomfort is not the enemy. Avoidance is. When you avoid discomfort, you avoid the situations that build resilience, discipline, clarity, and strength. You rob yourself of the very pressure that would shape you into someone powerful. The more you avoid discomfort, the smaller your world becomes. But the more you lean into it, the more your world expands. Think about a time you grew the most in your life. It probably wasn't during a season of comfort. It was likely after heartbreak, loss, risk, change, or a challenge that forced you to dig deep. Growth rarely happens when things are easy. It happens when life shakes you, stretches you, and demands more from you than you thought you had. You don't grow when you do what's easy. You grow when you do what's necessary. That may mean waking up earlier than you want, having that hard conversation, choosing discipline over desire, or walking away from things that no longer serve you. None of that feels comfortable, but all of it leads to growth. The fastest way to change your life is to start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Not once, not occasionally, daily. When discomfort becomes your normal, growth becomes your lifestyle. You stop flinching at hard things. You stop waiting for motivation. You start chasing what stretches you, not what soothes you. That's how transformation happens. If you don't define success, the world will define it for you. We live in a time where the definition of success is constantly being shouted at us from every direction. Social media tells us it's about luxury, followers, aesthetics, and attention. School tells us it's about grades, degrees, and titles. Society says it's money, status, power, and external achievement. But here's the thing. If you don't slow down and define success for yourself, you'll spend your whole life chasing a version of it that never fulfills you. Most people are miserable not because they've failed, but because they've succeeded at things that never truly mattered to them. They climbed the ladder only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. They chased a dream that wasn't theirs. They followed someone else's path, a parent's expectations, a teacher's idea of potential, or society's checklist, without ever asking, what do I really want? What does success actually mean to me? Success isn't a one-size-fits-all formula. What feels like success to one person might feel empty to another. For one, success might be building a business. For another, it's raising a family. For someone else, it's living simply with peace of mind. The point is, success must be personal, or it will never be satisfying. You can't copy and paste someone else's dream and expect it to fit your life. When you don't define success, you become vulnerable to comparison. You start measuring your worth against someone else's timeline, income, body, or lifestyle. You forget that people show the highlights, not the behind the scenes. You see the results, not the cost. And worst of all, you start believing that you're behind, when in reality, you're just on a different path. Defining success isn't just about setting goals. It's about aligning your values. It's about asking yourself, what kind of person do I want to be? What kind of life do I want to live? What matters to me when the noise fades? Because real success is not just what you achieve, it's how you achieve it. It's the process, the integrity, the peace you feel when no one's watching. It's the ability to live in alignment with your truth, not someone else's version of it. You have to be brutally honest with yourself. Do you want what you want? Or do you just want the approval that comes with it? Are you chasing goals because they reflect your vision, or because they fit into a picture the world told you was impressive? Until you ask those questions, you'll always be chasing and never arriving. You'll always feel like you're not enough, even when you're accomplishing more than most. The world rewards performance, but your soul craves purpose. You can spend decades performing, putting on a show, hitting every milestone, getting the applause, and still feel deeply unfulfilled. That's what happens when success is defined externally. The applause becomes your validation, the likes become your self-worth, and the image becomes more important than the impact. It's a trap, and it's one that many never escape. When you define success for yourself, everything changes. Your priorities shift. You stop wasting energy trying to impress people who don't even know you. You stop hustling for validation and start living for meaning. You stop chasing everything and start focusing on the few things that actually matter. You become more intentional, more grounded, and more alive, not because life got easier, but because you finally got clear. Clarity is powerful. It gives you direction. It keeps you anchored when life gets noisy. It helps you say no to distractions and yes to purpose. When you know what success looks like for you, you don't need everyone to understand it. You don't need constant reassurance. You're no longer living to be seen. You're living to be real. And that shift creates a different kind of freedom. The irony is, the more you define success for yourself, the more successful you actually become. Not always in the world's eyes, but in your own. And that's what matters. Success without fulfillment is failure in disguise. It looks good, but it feels empty. Fulfillment, on the other hand, comes from alignment, from living in a way that reflects who you are, not just what you have. Success isn't a destination, it's a direction. It's not a single moment of achievement, it's a way of showing up every day. It's how you treat people, how you treat yourself, how you spend your time, and what you build when no one's watching. It's knowing what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're not. It's choosing to live by design, not by default. You don't find that kind of success by accident. You find it by being intentional, by going inward before you go outward, and by refusing to let the world do the defining for you. Because if you don't choose your definition of success, someone else will, and you'll spend your life living their dream instead of your own.